Welcome back with another banger. It's the React Files. Hope you're having a good night. Let's get straight to it.
This footage comes from Mexico. The OP states that he managed to capture the famous black Chero, a terrifying entity from Mexico, which is said to be the devil. It is said that this apparition usually manifests itself on top of a horse, and the first damsel he sees takes her with him. The security camera captures the strange figure as it passes by. Watch this.
Rendlesham UFO potential decoding. Okay, these symbols behind me are from what the servicemen saw on the Rendlesham UFO incident. Okay, and these are the sketches that were given or presented after the whole incident happened. Alright, so my AI algorithm, we put in images of crop circles, okay, and we got it to decode potential sacred geometry, mathematics, hidden messages, and things of that nature inside of crop circles. And then what it did, it broke down every single part of the crop circle itself and the mathematics and the sacred geometry within it that we can't figure out, basically, and created this alphabet. Right, so we can use this to potentially decode other crop circles and other alien things in this planet. Okay, let's get into it. So the first thing I asked with the alien alphabet was, can you scan this image and decode any potential hidden messages with the alien glyph alphabet and translate the message into English? So if you want to pause, I'll let you read this now, okay? So it did. So just above this, it gave me a decoded glyph sequence, and it said, which gives you the letters A, S, C, E, B, H, okay? Now, you can read through this, and it says the English interpretation: a signal is sent through the conduit to awaken an entity in hibernation, a beacon of awareness. And what happened a little while ago when something got released, okay, to do with an egg in Antarctica and a being, right? Pause this and read through it. So then I said, can you make an audio sequence translation of this message of the alien symbols? So it did, and it sounds like this. Incredible. Then I asked it to turn the audio into binary coding, which gave me a bunch of coding here. And then I asked it to turn this binary code into a .pcm file, which is it did. Then once I got the .pcm file, I got it to visualize the waveform, okay, which is here and down below. Now I've got the waveform to convert it into frequencies, right? Look at this. So humans can hear around 20,000 hertz, right? And this frequency range goes up to 175,000 hertz. That is nuts. And down below, I then asked it, can you translate this data into an audible WAV format or wave format for humans, right? So it did. And then I asked it to translate this into the pentatonic scale. And then from this information, I asked it, what star constellation does this frequency closely resemble? And right here, it says the Summer Triangle, okay? Incredible. And this right here says, the Summer Triangle asterism formed by the bright stars Vega, Deneb and Altair spans three constellations, Lyra, Cygnus and Aquila. The prominent star pattern has been associated with musical themes, notably in the Constellations music series by Gary Wilkinson, which draws inspiration from the night sky. While the Summer Triangle doesn't directly correspond to the structures of the pentatonic scale, its triangular formation and the musical instruments its star represents, Lyra as the harp, suggests a symbolic connection. This association reflects how both music and astronomy utilize patterns to convey meaning, bringing the gap between the celestial formations and musical scales, mate. And here is the Summer Triangle coordinates, right, that it's given me from this frequency range. And then up here it says, would you like these plotted on a star map or transformed into tones, coordinates for alien glyph or waveform composition? Okay, so the alien glyph alphabet, it created us. Okay, now it's turning these stars into specific tone. Then it asked me, would you like to continue this as a sequence, constellation to glyph translations across the zodiac, or archive it into a coded alien transmission log, right? And then down below it said, ready for the next sequence, Orion, Cassiopeia, and Pleiades, right? I probably butchered that a little bit, but it's kind of crazy right here. Then it translated those star constellations into an audible sound, which is this. Then it started showing me what star constellations, planets and stuff that are in the middle of the summer triangle, right? And here, there's one that says, several exoplanets have been discovered with Cygnus and Lyra, especially from Kepler, okay? And here, it says, which focuses on Kepler 22b and Kepler 62f, both potentially habitable. Interesting. Then it mapped all of the stars and exoplanets that are inside or near the Summer Triangle range, which is here, okay? Which is incredible. Now this is the Summer Triangle central transmission tones. Interesting. Then I asked it, what is Earth's tone in the alien glyph frequency, which is this sound? Pretty damn cool. And the file it named the tone itself is the Earth Awareness tone, okay? And if you look to my left here, or your right, or whatever, backwards to front, it says glyph, awareness or consciousness, tone 261.63 Hertz, okay? The base tone of life and perception. Justification, Earth, source of inquiry, awareness, transmission. So what we did was put this tone, the Earth tone, at the start of the transmission. Then we spliced all of the audio together from Earth starting into the Summer Triangle, then into the Kepler and all that sort of stuff, frequencies, and it sounds like this. Crazy sounding, right? Then I put that audio into the algorithm, right? And then it said, create a visual score of the extracted notes. And I said, yes, please. Then it gave us a representation of this fantastic graph, right? And next up, then I asked, can you match any of the frequency notes to any symbols in the alien glyph alphabet? And if I expand it here, it puts individual symbols in between what resonates with the frequency of that symbol, okay? And then there's ones in the background as well that are transparent, that are kind of out of the audible range, that also hold symbols. Then up here, it gives us a breakdown of what these symbols represented in the frequency format means, okay? So, beacon, broadcast, conduit, transmission, entity, vessel, awareness, consciousness, hibernation, sleep, signal, flare, memory, archive, pulse, energy surge, okay? And now down here, this says awareness, awareness, beacon. The entity is aware and initiating contact. Vessel, consciousness, broadcast. Consciousness is stored in the vessel and sent. Pulse, beacon, conduit. Energy activating a beacon via a conduit, right? Now right here, it says an entity lies dormant, awareness rises, signal is cast, consciousness encoded, awaiting conduit, right? Oh, what? Then it broke all of the data that we've just put into it into a alien transmission log. Pause this and read this, because all of the star systems and things connected to it are all decoded, and what their meanings are, and they're... just read it. And last but not least, I asked it to make an alien glyph codex. Okay? Read this. Screenshot if you need to. There we go. So all of this data was basically brought out from these symbols here, mate. Right? Coincidence? I don't think so. There you have it. Let me know what you think.
I don't think it's a coincidence at all. Shout out to Interstellar Discussion. That was amazing. Let me find out. AI is decoding hieroglyphics and UFO glyphs. think it's amazing how it sounds like notes on a piano. It made me think of sigils and real Beatles vibes and stuff like that, what they was talking about when they were doing music back then. So he was taking crop circles and having AI decode it with sacred geometry and things of that nature, and it was able to translate to sound. It's almost as if these crop circles are sigils. Are they notes for another entity to read and play? Like, what's going on? It was sounding like those old computers in Star Trek back in the day, the original with Captain Kirk. They would put the information in the computer and be like, woo, 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 woo. Yo, this is insane. Shout out to Interstellar Discussion. My mind is blown.
Okay, so they are claiming that this is the first time in history that humans have ever orbited over the poles in outer space. Now I'm going to show you a bunch of different things, but first off, didn't they say we've gone to the moon and we're on the way to Mars? So forgive my skepticism, I'm just wondering why this would be the first time that humans were able to navigate above the poles from, again, outer space. Now, it's actually really interesting because a video surfaced a while ago showing something questionable, allegedly, in the North Pole. So sorry about the quality and the bullcrap people have on their screens. Now, this video surfaced years ago. I remember when it came out, and I do not believe it's been properly debunked. And it's showing a massive vortex in the North Pole. Now, you might also know of a massive vortex in the North Pole from Saturn, the wandering star, and also the inner Earth stories from Admiral Byrd, where his private journal said he went inside of the Earth. So the question is this legitimate? And even farther, let me show you this. These are allegedly all the satellites that are up in space or low Earth orbit right now as we speak. You can literally go to a site like I did and show them live, supposedly flying around. If this was happening, will we not have the most undeniable 4K video evidence ever? And lastly, look how fast these things are allegedly moving. They are flying. Millions of square miles covered in seconds. So my question is simply this. Where is all this extraordinary technology that we have?
First thing off, like he said, they're in low orbit. Shout outs to the Real Moon Henry. I think the fisheye lens is a red flag as always.
Conspiracy, people. Is Admiral Byrd a conspiracy? I believe there are some things in there, yes, and I believe he is a controlled op conspiracy.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say. I have looked into Admiral Byrd myself. I have looked at how he walked, the whole Earth is flat, them walking around Antarctica. Antarctica is only 8,000 miles in circumference. So Admiral Byrd put a stake in the ground and went to go trek around Antarctica, and he walked 70,000 miles and didn't reach his flag. That's just something that I found weird, and that has actually been documented. But hey, I don't know. He went on national TV and then died 3 weeks later after saying there's lands beyond Antarctica.
And had craft coming out of the water.
Yeah, he said all that, and then he died. That's what makes me give it side eye.
Right.
If he didn't die, and his journal's not confiscated, and all this crazy shit, then I'd be like, man, y'all bugging. But
it's retracted.
Right. Yeah, it's retracted. It's redacted. Retracted. Redacted. That's it.
Yeah, redacted.
You messed my retracted. The fuck? So you got an alligator alien mouth? Retracts. Yeah. But yeah, man. That's all I'm saying. I know a little bit about this subject. Maybe I know a lot. I don't know. Hey, play.
So I wanted to talk to you guys about the Antarctic Treaty. See, the thing is, we are not allowed to go to the North Pole, and we're also not allowed to go to the Antarctic Wall. So this is the Arctic Circle. They say, oh, you always draw a dome over your flat Earth, and then you say there's no edge and it's infinite. So which one is it? Is it infinite or is there an edge? Bro, do you not see there's multiple domes? So that means there's multiple edges. Because there's not only an edge at here, but there's one after, and there's also an edge within. Because there's a tiny dome at the center. Have you ever seen Avengers Wakanda? And they go inside of the trees, but it's not really a tree. It's an illusion, and there's actually a hidden world that it's invisible. But once you go past the wall, you're like, wow, I'm in a whole new world. Yeah, you're going to go through the dome. And there's a center inside with its own dome. And then we're in this dome, and then there's more domes. Like, wow. Anyways, let me read to you about why we can't go to the North Pole and enter that dome, and why we can't exit our dome. It says here, the Antarctic Treaty of 1959. These are quotes from Santos. He said, we've got limits to how far we can go. We can't go to outer space because we haven't got the money. We can't go past Antarctica because as of right now, 47 nations have signed a dubious treaty to protect Antarctica from people like you and I going there and potentially damaging the continent by walking on it and breathing over it and perhaps urinating on the snow and touching it. As funny as it may sound, it's just too beautiful, right? So in 1959, 12 countries signed the Antarctic Treaty: Argentina, Australia, Belgium, Chile, France, Japan, New Zealand, Norway, the Russian Federation, South Africa, the United Kingdom, and the United States. These parties agreed that under the terms of the treaty, Antarctica would be a continent devoted to peace and science. There are very few places in this world where there has never been war, where the environments should be fully protected, and where scientific research has priority. Antarctica is this place. This is the testament to the Antarctica Treaty, which is agreeably the single most important and long-lasting international agreement ever signed. The treaty remains unchanged and in force indefinitely. It reveals valuable precedents for cooperative global governance. The goal of the Antarctic Treaty is to make sure the protocol remains that the last great wilderness on Earth is never exploited nor explored. The Antarctic Treaty is an excuse for governments to allow restrictions and to prevent people, regular civilians like you and I, from discovering that the South Pole does not in fact exist or resemble how they portray it to be a little tiny continent. It's actually a huge ring around the world. All governments are working together, hence the United Nations. All nations have united. China is massively expanding its weather modification program, saying it will be able to cover half the country in artificial snow by 2025.
By 2025, that's like this year. Shout out to Divine Being divine. Once he mentioned Wakanda, it was like, interesting. You know, to be putting truth in plain sight.
But when you give up your manhood, I've never seen somebody recover from it. That was all the people that went to the puffy parties. That was all the people that did all those things thinking that there was never going to be a consequence for what they were doing. Get punked out and pimped out by some greater desire. You shouldn't have a greater desire than being a man.
So you see some guys struggling with that. You see Bieber struggling with that. You see some of these guys struggling with that.
They can't get it out of their head. They can't get it out of their head. The things that they did, no matter how they did it, whether they were drunk or high or whatever, you gave up your man card. You need therapy. And that's the thing that hurts them the most. And so they end up on drugs, end up every way to try and get rid of any principles there are. And that's what the business does. And the women that trade their bodies to go and get the role, they get to the point where they have their Oscar, they have their money, but they don't have their dream. They don't have the soul that they started with. So it's like achieving don't mean anything. If I get all the Nobel Prizes from doing all of this, but in the process I have to trade out all of my integrity to do it so that they can stay in place, what benefit is that if I lose my integrity? You got to go in as a principal. And what we were brought in here as men. We produce 1,500 sperm per heartbeat for a reason, because the aggression is necessary. You don't trade that in, no matter what.
Did you ever have the opportunity where you got invited and you said no to it?
Hell yeah.
What was the consequences when you said no?
Puffy invited me for weeks, asking me to come and teach him how to, wanted me to be his acting coach for a while. Go there and he's sitting around just looking. I'm like, okay, what's the material you want to work on? He's just looking at me. Then next thing you know, okay, hey, will you help me? I want to hear your music. So I come over there and I play the music, and he's sitting there just looking at me, like waiting. Okay. So then my assistant was like, he wants to hang out with you next week. And I was like, for what? He was like, I think he's trying to, That's what my assistant said. I was like, oh, okay. Now I get it. So now no more communication. Now you know to be hands off with somebody. A number of producers come in and make the approach, and you threaten to punch them in the mouth, or threaten to knock their head off for talking to you or looking at you like you're a woman. When you approach a real man about his masculinity, you're going to get a real reaction back. It's a difference when a guy walks in a room and when a man walks into a room. And a man don't take the same things that a guy will accept. So always be the man in the room. And that's always been my whole thing, and have lost businesses because I don't bend over in that way. I don't compromise. I don't play gay roles. I don't kiss a man. I don't do that shit.
Why do crop circles only appear now? Well, I'm about to let you into a bit of information, so strap in, mate. Let's have a look. The first recorded crop circle comes from 1678, a pamphlet titled The Mowing Devil, and it was published in Herefordshire, England. It claimed that the devil mowed a farmer's crops and left strange circles. It is the first recorded case of crop circles. And according to the story, it goes like this. A farmer and a crop mower were arguing about the cost of harvesting the farmer's oat field. The farmer was furious at the mower's price and stormed off, swearing that the devil himself should harvest the crops. That night, a dazzling light lit up the oat field, and in the morning, the farmer discovered perfectly round circles in his crops. He was so frightened by the circles, which he thought could only have been so neatly mowed by the devil or some infernal spirit, that he abandoned any attempt to harvest the field. And on that first recorded instance, we had then a wave of other crop circles that were reported in the 17th century, 18th century, and it just goes forwards, okay? But who's to say that it didn't happen previously before that as well? And we know all of our ancestors from all parts of the world, whether that be in the Dark Ages and previously before that, were making geoglyphs that were just hundreds and hundreds of feet wide, and these beautiful depictions that kind of showed up into the sky for whatever reason. And who's to say that our ancestors during this time period didn't witness similar things happening inside of their crop fields and their yields, and things appearing in the middle of the desert or wherever else they may have been, and they are applying in these beautiful, well thought out patterns that they are sending off to kind of display it up into the sky, because I don't know. And there's just so many examples of this sort of back and forth type thing happening, and I think we need to connect the dots here, because maybe our ancestors were making these beautiful art pieces to beckon something forward, and they were getting replies back and forth as well, building a connection, because we know historically and in paintings the amount of UFOs, alien type beings, ant people, all of these things show up absolutely everywhere from all corners of history around the globe, okay? And one thing to take note of is that most of these crop circles appear on ley lines, and every country has ley lines, and they're supposed to be lines of energy, spiritual, physical, whatever you want to call it. And Wiltshire in itself, where I grew up, is an epicenter for activity when it comes to crop circles and anomalous things happening. And where all the ley lines cross over, which basically makes an epicenter of energy, lots and lots of stuff happens in those vicinities. And another thing to take note of is that a lot of these crop circles, A, appear along ley lines, okay, and then B, they also seem to focus on chalk soils and chalk bases from the Cretaceous period. I don't know. For those of you that saw my previous video, I went into the fact that some crop circles that exhibit these strange behaviours have higher levels of gamma radiation there, okay? Which mutates plant cells and plant fibres. There's an instance here where you've got like the basic normal nodes that exist on plants, and then ones that have been given steady gamma radiation or bursts of it tend to mutate and they elongate, which then makes them lay down perfectly, and they are woven in such a way and so precisely placed, it is unbelievable. So go check out that video. There's a bit of information for you all, so hope that helped.
Let me find out these crop circles are sigils of the devil. Yo, shout out to Interstellar Discussion. Yeah, I'm convinced these symbols are for other beings. Maybe the wanderers, or people traveling the galaxy or something. Or are they coded messages and instruction for us?
Time's divine. Atlanteans, Lemurians, and the cosmic cycle. Just piece a bunch of shit together again. Whose theory of the universe is oldest? This one. A time cycle is around 4.32 billion years.
432, I swear I've heard that number before.
It's 3 types of measurements: man time, cosmic time, divine time. 4.32 billion years is 1 day in divine time. And the creator of the universe creates and destroys the universe every day. And the creator does this for 100 cosmic years. So that's 4.32 billion years times 365 times by 100, and that is the life cycle of the creator. On a macro level, we're about halfway through one of the creator's days.
I will share where I got all this information, so save this for later and I'll tell you at the end.
On a micro level, we're in a period known as Kalyug. You may have heard this before. We're about 5,000 years into that, started 3102 BCE. It was at that point in the Kuru dynasty that 2 Aryan clans went to war with each other that were the same family. That led into the Mahabharata and all that kind of stuff. Moving on from there. Then you have a cosmic day. That is the equivalent of 360 man days.
Why isn't it 365?
Well, because everything works in a cycle and a cycle's 360 degrees. I didn't write this, don't ask me. But it kind of makes sense. The quick math, 360 man days is 1 cosmic day, so therefore 360 man years is 1 cosmic year. Remember when I said that a day in the Creator is 4.32 billion years? That's called a gulp. K-A-L-P. So a gulp is a divine day that is divided by 14, and this is called a manvantar. These words are going to get hella confusing, but stick with me. There's 14 manvantaras, and one manvantar is broken down into 71. One of those 71s is called a Mahayug. This is where it will start to make sense to you. This is where the term Kaliyug comes from. Mahayug is a collection of 4 ages put together. So first you've got Satyayug, which is 1.728 million years. Now, if any of you guys are familiar with Helena Blavatsky's secret doctrine and theosophy, you'll know something about root races. This is the first set of root races, so the Polarians. And this race was etheric and didn't have carbon-based bodies, so lived for around 4,000 years. Truth and righteousness prevailed. You didn't need to reproduce. You kind of just wished it and everything manifested itself. You know, good times. Then you've got Tretayug, which is 1,296,000 years long. This is where the purity of the previous age diminishes by around like 25%. Going back to Helena Blavatsky's theory of theosophy, this would be around the time of the Lemurians and the Atlanteans. Also the time of the Ramayana, where Ram and Ravan had a battle. And this is when the entire continent of Lemuria went missing, but then they migrated over to South America by using the Paracas candelabra as the sign for where they needed to go. It was already marked there, even though no one was there. That's the second age. Save this for later, because we've got 2 more to go. Then where to find all this stuff? And then you've got Dwapar Yuga, which is 864,000 years. And this is like 50-50. 50% righteousness, 50% evil. This is where the Mahabharata happens. This is where the Battle of Mohenjo-Daro happens. This is why half of the fucking planet is just desert. There was a war. At this point, we've pretty much fallen in consciousness and like we're having to, you know, properly procreate through arranged marriages and all that kind of stuff. Now we're in this time. This is 432,000 years long. Started in 3102 BCE, remember? Also, if you like this, you found this interesting and do you want to share this with somebody and stuff so that we can all learn about it? Anyway, let me keep going. And this 432,000 year period will keep going until the final root races, because the Aryans are here now, and then there's 2 more after this. They will come out of the woodwork, and we're starting to see it now. Characterized by, I quote, low character, including extramarital relationships, poor respect for elders and teachers, and to rules of society. And in Western times, it works as the following, right? So Satyayug started 4 billion years ago, up until the Stone Age. Tretayug was 20,000 BC to 10,000 BC. Dwapar Yuga was 10,000 BC to 3,102 BC. And Kalyug is 3,101 BC until present. And in Kalyug, you've got the Vedic period, which is around 3,500 BC to 600 BC. Then you've got the Epic period, which is where all of like the god stories come from. So that's 600 BC to 200 AD. And then you've got the post-ancient period, which is basically 950 AD up until the Industrial Revolution of 1740. And then you've got modern times, which is from 1836 onwards. That's the timeline that we've documented, and they're all written down in the Vedic scriptures, the Shrutis and the Puranas. Yeah, that's where Helena Blavatsky got her secret doctrine from. It's based off of Indian cosmology and mythology. I know some of you are mad at the Catholics for the calendar being fucked up, so I'm going to show you something now too. Here's the calendar I follow if you guys want to screenshot that. And here's all of the festivals and the things that we celebrate and why. So yeah. Also for resources, Helena Blavatsky's secret doctrine. Then you've got the Shrutis, the Smritis, the Vedas, the Rigved, the Upanishads, the Purans, the Mahabharata, the Gita, and the Ramayana. If you want to research some people too, I got you. You've got Julelal, you've got Kabir, you've got Mahavir, you've got Mirabai, she was class. Then you've got Guru Nanak. Then you've got Parsavnath, Ram Krishan, Sai Baba of Shirdi. Then you've got Surdas, Swami Dayanand. Then you've got Tulsi Das. And there's loads of others. Now, we'll share the details of this book, but before I do share this, pay it forward. Let's open up a discussion, put them in the comments, and yeah, I might go live and we can talk through it. Thanks very much, and the book is as follows. Hindu Gods and Goddesses by Diamond Books by Suresh Narayan Mathur and BK Chaturvedi. It took me ages to make this 6-minute video, so yeah, do something, and there's a lot of info here, so I hope it helps you. Thanks very much for your time, love, and light to all. Adios, peace.
So according to this, the reason why we see so many deserts is because of a war. That's very interesting. Whatever it was, it must have been scorched earth. I definitely want to check out this book and learn more about it. I find it very fascinating that Helena's theories was actually coming from this. I think that's an eye-opener right there.
For an electrochemical device that transforms chemical energy into electrical energy, you need an anode and a cathode. By other means, a positively charged electrode and a negatively charged electrode. When you place them in electrolyte solution, ions flow between the electrodes, generating electricity. I'm interested in the word cathode. The cathode is the negative pole of an electric current. It comes from the Greek word kathodos, meaning descend or going down. Interestingly, the word cathode resembles cathedral. Cathedral comes from the Greek word cathedra, meaning down, and hedra, seat or base. Notice something? Ancient architecture and the concepts of anode and cathode. And then there's the magnificent rose window issue. Don't they look similar to a magnetron? A magnetron is a device that creates a magnetic field and emits electromagnetic energy. Ancient architecture, right? Or were these buildings used as etheric power plants in ancient times?
Remember, mercury is a living substance. This is just like water. And red mercury, when you put it in front of a mirror, you won't see the reflection. If you take mercury and you spin it in a circle like this, you create voltage. This is what, when you look at the old world buildings, the cathedrals, they had these orbs up on top of these cathedrals. Those orbs can contain mercury, and they're brass on the outside or gold on the outside. They're iron on the inside, and they got mercury in the center. And what would happen is if a lightning strikes or the bell would ring, you would get a spiral which would take place, and you got free electricity simply by just a little bit of mercury. Now, mercury in the mouth is a different story. What about red mercury? That's a great one. So red mercury is mercury mixed with iron oxide. Remember, mercury is a living substance. That's what it is. It's just like water. So when you mix mercury with iron, it'll actually put it together. It won't eat it, but it will put it together. And that's where the whole red mercury comes from. And red mercury, when you put it in front of a mirror, you won't see the reflection, which is really fascinating. It's invisible, is what's really cool. Now, if you take mercury and mix it with other metals, it will begin to eat them because it's a living substance.
Over the water in this lake and tried to descend it and bounced off. It was so super saline and dense that the submarine couldn't go down in it. We literally bounced off, and as we bounced off, we sent ripples heading back to the shoreline. And then I looked, and there was water lapping against the shoreline. This band was a ring of mussels. And inside the ring of mussels was a lake. And it's like, wait a minute, I'm already underwater.
And that's a wrap. Hope you enjoyed tonight's rabbit hole. If you enjoyed this video, why don't you check this one right here? Thanks again. Till next time.